Rumsfeldian logic, but I want to get from you your take on that. I mean, is there a method to this madness of command destruction, post-industrial world? I mean, the elites say that's their plan, or is that more their destructive, psychopathic excuse in that they want to destroy, but they also want to be control freaks, so they lie to themselves and think that they're in control of it, like Hitler attacking on 3 fronts? Complex statement, but you're a military historian. Give us your take on that. Is this under the elite's control? Is this pre-designed?
I think it is pre-designed. I think their intent is at least a partial implosion. Whether or not they're going to remain in control remains to be seen. I think that there's a good chance that the situation could get completely away from them, and their planned announcement of a global currency and a global economic union might very well fall apart. It's difficult to say what the end result's going to be. All I can say is we're going to have some incredibly turbulent times for the next couple of years, and that people need to get themselves prepared. I think that the citizenry of Greece has the right idea right now. They're pulling out $1 billion a day of their deposits from Greek banks. Common sense dictates that Americans should probably be doing the same thing. If they realized just how unbacked their bank accounts were, right now there's just, pennies on the dollar, really. If everyone went to go get their money out of the bank simultaneously, we would see the banks cleaned out in the course of just 2 days.
Yeah, the number was 3 cents on the dollar 2 years ago. Now I'm told it's less than 2 cents on the dollar of physical cash is actually there.
Right. The total money supply that's been printed or minted here in the United States is only about $1 trillion. I'm sorry, 800 billion, I think, is the exact figure. But that's nothing compared to the total money supply, which is enormous. So what people have in their banks are just electronic digits, and there's no way that they can even start to cover withdrawals if they start to happen. And on Thursday evening, I posted a piece in my blog titled 20 Reasons Why America's Next Bank Holiday Will Be a Nightmare. I'd recommend that people take a look at that.
Let's go over that right now. Since you raised that point, it's at survivalblog.com. We're linked to it at INFOWARS.com. Go over that for us.
Well, basically, a bank holiday, which we haven't seen in the United States since the 1930s, would be a government-mandated closure of part or all of the banks in the United States to stem off the flood of withdrawals that will take place if we have a bank run. And in the event of a bank holiday, in a modern era, it's not just a physical run with people standing in line in their banks. They will cut people off electronically as well. All online banking will be suspended. All ATM machines will be shut down.
Well, banks already, this is already happening in Europe, as you've stated. Banks already act, I mean, I've gone in to get a few thousand out, and they try to refuse until I throw a fit. I mean, this is outrageous. Continue.
Well, the other thing that's really frightening that I pointed out in that article is that all of the SNAP payments, which are on EBT cards now, they used to be food stamps, all those SNAP payments are also negotiated through the bank check clearance system. So if they shut down the check clearance system, they're also going to shut down food stamps.
That's right. And, of course, the Federal Reserve runs that check clearance system, and its regional systems totally strangleholding our economy. I want to get back into your 20 points here, but just thinking about how accurate I've been, you've been, Ron Paul, countless others, G. Edward Griffin. I mean, we have been so incredibly dead on watching the globalists because they're operating in plain view. Their whole attack pattern is designed for a zombified sleep state population who are victims of this. But it's really amazing looking back at my 17 years, your 20 plus years, other people 50 years, how the old timers absolutely foresaw exactly what was coming and held it back for a long time, but now it's here. I mean, it's like a kid waiting for Christmas. It finally comes. You can't believe it. But this is the anti-Christmas. What's your statement on that point? Because, I mean, here we are. You were on just a year ago, then a few months ago, talking about bank runs in Europe and you know, ATM withdrawals and capital controls and the TSA getting ready for it. Now it's all admitted. I mean, it's just, it's again, I'm not patting us on the back here. It's really mind-blowing, though, how accurate the Patriot movement has been. Do you think that's checkmated or put in check the establishment? I mean, does that freak them out, how accurate we were, reverse engineering with the available intelligence, what we were dealing with?
Well, perhaps. Certainly, we've been a lot more accurate than the talking heads on the economic shows on CNBC, who are basically still touting buy and hold stock purchases, and that the bottom has been reached in the real estate market, and a lot of other fantasies. It's people like you mentioned, the late Bob Chapman, who is one of my absolute heroes. He passed away just a week ago. But for 30 years, Bob was warning that this financial reckoning day was going to come, and he was absolutely right. And he was one of my mentors.
Let's get back to your 20 points. I'm sorry to digress. It's just important to point out, people watching for the first time, this is not a game. Is this a game? Is this a joke? Is this pessimism porn? Because you said 3 years ago, we never left the recession. I said that. We all said it. Now they admit, oh, yeah, we never left it. It's a depression. They're lying to us.
Well, yeah, we are being lied to systematically. And people need to wake up and at this point, it's beyond just political rhetoric. It's beyond the awakening stage. At this point, people need to get physically prepared, because we're going to see the onslaught of all the effects. You're seeing what's going on with Greece, with their economy cratering and unemployment rate over 30% effectively. We're going to see the same thing here in the United States. We'll see our own bank runs. We'll see our own bank holidays. It could get very ugly very quickly. So people need to make tangible preparations.
By the way, I don't want to scare people, but I got a call from a very famous person just actually last week, and they were like, wow, I just talked to this big banker, and they said this could happen in a month, and they actually put dates on it. And that everything was going to basically start here soon if things, weren't, quote, fixed in Europe, as you just said. So I made some phone calls, and they said, to some separate sources I have, and they said yes. And then I noticed that all the big money has been busy getting their money out. So how close are we to the trigger that we're already seeing in Europe?
I think we're fairly close, but as I indicated earlier, we're going to see a lag here in the United States where, in fact, the U.S. dollar is going to benefit. Switzerland has already instituted kind of reverse currency controls. They had too many deposits coming into Switzerland because it was seen as a safe haven, and it was making the Swiss franc too strong and hurting Swiss exports out of Swiss industry.
Negative interest rates.
Yeah. So they actually have capital controls in reverse. And, most countries like Zimbabwe, are trying to keep currency in the country. In Switzerland, they're trying to keep it out. I think in the short term, we may actually see the United States as a short-term safe haven for capital coming out of Europe. But the worm will turn just a few months later. I think certainly by this fall, October, November, maybe where we see our crisis here in the United States.
Well, we just saw that a few weeks ago, where the euro goes way down, so the dollar goes up, and then the dollar went down too, and then so it's gyrating.
Oh, definitely. Ditto with the precious metals. I have a lot of readers that are a little panicky right now, saying, "Well, what's wrong with my silver and gold? Why have they gone down?" It's only because the economic crisis in Europe is so bad that there's a scramble for cash, and people are liquidating every asset imaginable. They're selling stocks, they're selling bonds, and they're even selling precious metals to meet margin
calls. Well, speaking
calls.
of Bob Chapman, he predicted that as things first start really imploding, at first tangibles will go down as people are dumping them, but also there's a depression within the inflation. There's inflation in currencies, but depression in the real economy. But long term, if you look at it, things are only going to go up as those currencies die.
Right, yeah. In the short term, we're going to see a mix of both inflation and deflation simultaneous here in the States. In the long run, though, it'll be nothing but inflation and more inflation.
All right, go through your other 20 points.
Well, just to summarize them briefly, I mentioned the importance of the SNAP payments from the USDA for what used to be called food stamps. The implications of that are huge. It'll be bad enough when people find their ATM shut down, and most people only keep a few $100s in cash at most at home. But what about the people that are living on the ragged edge? What happens when their food stamp payments, their EBT cards, no longer work? There will be blood in the streets. We could see major riots in the urban areas very quickly after a banking holiday is announced, because, again, those EBT cards will be non-functional. Now, the other thing is most people don't carry cash for even day-to-day expenses. Most people who buy gasoline or diesel fuel pay at the pump with a credit card. The credit card processing systems could shut down as well. Now, they're partially delinked from banking, but inevitably, if banking shuts down, the credit cards are going to have to shut down. Likewise, online payments like PayPal, since they use the credit card system in their milieu, and they have to have access to banking inevitably. For a short period of time, they might be able to get by with just credit card processing, but they have to touch banking at some point. Online banking or online payments like PayPal will shut down as well. The only online payment that's going to be working that I can see would probably be Bitcoin, because it's not tied even to any currency. So anyone who doesn't already have a Bitcoin account should go ahead and set one up just as a contingency, because we very well might see no way to make online transactions outside of the Bitcoin arena.
And then we know what happens. The same thing's happening in Europe. Give the bankers more power. They'll fix things if you sign over everything, if you accept carbon taxes. How long do you expect them to try to bring this country into cardiac arrest until we acquiesce to their financial terrorism?
I think they'll push as hard and as fast as they can to try to back us into a corner. If they try to threaten us with the same sort of blackmail, really, that Greece and Spain and Italy have been put through with austerity measures, things could be very, very ugly very quickly. And don't underestimate the ability of American politicians to force, through the whole mass media, to force America into accepting a global currency and into accepting these, what they're going to call austerity measures, but it really is going to be the looting of America that takes place. We're going to see already in Greece, they've been told, well, yes, we can extend you some more loans if you give us